Hello and welcome to Inside Music, episode number 74. I'm your host, James Shotwell, and I've got to say, I'm not in the best spirits today. It's a few days before May 27th, and I woke up this morning in the worst possible way. A call from my mother came in. It was actually the third time she had tried to call me, but I didn't wake up for whatever reason. And when I finally did get a hold of her, she was telling me that my grandpa, also named James Shotwell, is in the hospital. And not just in the hospital in the sense of like he fell and broke a hip, but in the hospital in a sense of he might not be here tomorrow. And it's been difficult to deal with. I've been trying to work all morning. I've been trying to record this introduction to the episode. And it's been a struggle because as much as I am excited to share this podcast with you, and I think it's one of the best ones we've had in a while, there's a part of me that's just not into it. You know, some days, I don't take for granted the fact that I'm fortunate enough to work in music full time, and I am so blessed that people like you right now listening to this are willing to support my work. But when something happens like this, something so close to home, makes the rest of it seem kind of, pointless. Not pointless in the case that like I never want to talk about music again, but like there are more pressing things happening in the world today, and not just in my life, but in others. And it's just a cause for pause. Anyways, the show must go on, and I'm here to give you one hell of a show. On this week's episode, I am speaking with my good pal Kyle from Real Friends Band, whose new album, The Home Inside My Head, arrives in stores this Friday, May 27th, through Fearless Records. Now, a month ago, when I was fortunate enough to hear this record for the first time, I was absolutely blown away. As a fan of pop punk and a fan of Real Friends, I didn't know if the band was going to continue the sound that they had more or less defined over the last 3 releases in their catalog, or if they're going to go in a completely new direction. And the answer is a little bit of both. There are songs on The Home Inside My Head that feel as if they could have been on previous Real Friends releases, but there's also a wealth of material, and more importantly, a wealth of ideas and lyrical themes that I feel the band could only create because of everything they've done in the past. And that's not to say that it's the same as everything they've done in the past or a progression of everything they've done in the past, though it is to some extent. But Real Friends are in a place now where they are comfortable with the fact that they are these touring musicians and they have an audience that's willing to listen to whatever they do, and they're not afraid to take risks with what they make in their music. The Home Inside My Head is by no means a complete departure from what Real Friends have done in the past, but it is definitely a gigantic step forward, and I think it's going to open a lot of doors for the band. Kyle and I spoke about all of this, as well as the fact that he didn't actually write every song on the record this time. More people in the group are getting involved in the songwriting process, and as a result, the band's music is a better reflection of them as a group of people instead of just one person channeling his ideas through a group of guys. I really think a lot of people are going to love this album, and more importantly, I think you're going to learn to appreciate the band in a whole new way through what Kyle has to share in today's episode. Now, before I get there, I do need to tell you 3 quick things. You probably already know what they are, but let's just go through them real quick just in case. Number 1, this episode of Inside Music, and every episode of Inside Music, is only made possible by Holix, the internet's leading digital promotional distribution company. And what that means is that Holix works with record labels, publicists, managers, and independent artists all over the world to share new and unreleased music with members of the industry at large without fear of piracy. Should leaks occur, and that happens very rarely, but should leaks occur, Holix has state-of-the-art technology that can not only stop the spread of unwanted files online, but also track down the people responsible for the leak. For more information on Holix, as well as access to a free 30-day trial, visit holix.com. That's HAULIX.com. I also want to ask that you follow the show on Twitter. Yes, Inside Music has a Twitter account. It's at Inside Music Pod. That's at Inside Music POD. And there we post updates about upcoming guests, news about those guests and what they have going on in their careers, as well as a lot of information about working in the industry or getting work in the industry. And it's a great place, and the community there is really starting to grow and flourish, and I would love for you to be a part of it. Third and finally, I've got to ask that you buy this Real Friends album. The only way that we get to keep doing this show is if people want to keep coming on because they feel that it's going to be a benefit to their career, and the benefit comes when you actually go out and support these artists. Streaming their music is one thing, but buying music or buying a ticket to the show means so much more, and that's what I'm asking you to do. The Home Inside My Head comes out this Friday, May 27th, through Fearless Records, and it's going to be available everywhere: Spotify, Apple, record stores, merch stores online, tour dates, whatever the case. Find a copy of this record and buy it. Maybe buy 2. Give one to a friend. They'll appreciate it. I'll appreciate it. The band will appreciate it. And you'll feel good inside for having made all those people's lives a little bit better. So please support Real Friends, especially if you enjoy the conversation, which we're going to get to right now. I'm going to play a little bit of my favorite song off the record, and then we'll dive into the conversation with Kyle. Thank you so much for listening. and hopefully I'll be in better spirits next week. Are you home in Illinois today?
Yeah, we've been home. We've been home now for like a couple weeks, and we got about another like couple months home. So it's very nice.
Oh wow, you guys have been pretty much going nonstop for the better part of the last 2 years, so it has to feel good to kind of pause.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't tour. Well, we just did like a little $5 tour sort of thing. But I mean, like before that, though, it was like the past year, it was like anytime home, it's like writing and then recording, you know what I mean? So even though we weren't in the public eye, really, it was like nonstop, so.
And you're about to get back there because, we're a few weeks out from the album, so you're going to be thrust back out there soon enough.
Yes, very excited for that.
Yeah, we're about 5 weeks away right now from the release of The Home Inside My Head. It's been about 2 years, so how are you feeling right now heading into the record?
I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, like, I know we were all really kind of like, I don't know, like after you record a record, we're just kind of like, okay, I'm sick of hearing it. Like, you kind of like in the studio, you think about things a lot. You're like, well, what if we maybe did this or let's add this or that? And it's like, I didn't listen to the record for like a month. Like I just seriously just kind of forgot about it a little bit, came home, listened to it all the way through. And I was like, yes, I'm so stoked on this. Like, I'm very proud of it. I think we did the best that we possibly could, and I think we're all kind of feeling that way about it. Very just excited and just stoked to finally show people like not just a new song, but like a new album,
Definitely, and you guys just announced the album. Like a lot of bands do this multi-month campaign, but it's only been about 2 weeks since this record was announced, and it comes out in 5. So, what was it? Did you always plan on kind of making it this short promotional campaign? Was that intentional?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to make it, like just something that is exciting, like something's always happening, sort of thing, I think that that's really important to do, is to always, instead of being like, oh, here's a new song, and then a month later, oh, here's this, and you know what I mean? It's like we really wanted to have it be shorter so we can kind of like jam pack it and really sort of like do a lot of cool things, like over the next like month or so, month and a half, we're going to be just doing a lot of like kind of cool things related to the album, and there's going to be some new announcements with it and things like that. Like for example, tonight we're doing premiering a new song through Twitch, which is like a chat room sort of thing.
Okay.
So like the song will be premiered. Like we're gonna do like a Q&A, sort of like just hangout sort of chat thing, and then the song is gonna be premiered like in the chat, like live, instead of just being like, here's the link on Spotify, we're going to like premiere the song like in a live fashion, which I think is really cool. So
what song is that? I mean, everyone's going to hear this, won't be out to the week of release. So like we can talk about the album pretty fluidly because by the time this is out, everyone will have heard it. So you got time. So what are people hearing tonight?
Scared to Be Alone.
Oh, the opener, right? No, fourth song. Fourth song is Scared to Be Alone. Sorry.
Yep. Fourth song. And if this is going to be out by that time, then people would know that there's a music video for that one as well. So.
Oh, great. What'd you guys do for the video?
We went down to Kentucky and shot it with Max Moore, who does like a ton of music videos in this music scene, and he's very, very talented, and he really, really understands the band's sort of like branding and sort of our kind of vibe that we go for. And it's just kind of like, it kind of revolves all around this like old house, and sort of like really revolves around the album sort of feel of like a home. And it's kind of like Dan's having sort of like flashbacks in this old house of like when he was a kid and stuff. And there's some really cool shots in there too of like it shows like a kid and a dad doing stuff, and then in one scene it shows them like kind of actually like fade away, and there's like empty picture frames on the walls, and like it fades and the pictures appear and then they reappear. It's really cool. So we're really, really stoked on the way that turned out.
Now, are you a big like video person? Do you guys put a lot of thought into it? Because I know so many videos today are just like a performance piece, but this seems like you guys are getting a lot more involved in like the message and look and feel of the video.
I think like before, I mean, like this is definitely my favorite music video that we've done. I know like some of the other videos we've done have been like for example, the one we did before this was for a song called 16, and there was no performance in it. It was actually just like it's just like all sort of a drama sort of thing, which I think we kind of wanted to do to kind of like focus more on like emotion than just like playing. Like you kind of expect a band to be playing in a music video, you know, like I've seen music videos even where it's just bands playing, there's no like, you know, drama to it. And I think with us, we kind of wanted to give something a little more cinematic for this video too, you know. So that's why there is actually quite a bit of you know, acted out sort of drama in it. Like I mean, there was when we actually recorded the music video, there was like the whole first minute of the song they didn't even shoot us playing because they weren't going to use it, which I thought was cool. It's like right when the music video pops in, it just gets right to like the sort of emotional sort of drama side of it, which I think is really cool, and I guess kind of different, you know, than just having a band go in and everyone looks really cool, you know. It's like we kind of wanted to I think a message is more important than that.
Well, I like to hear that. I mean, I understand the need for performance videos, especially like you're introducing a new band. It's your first like big video. Obviously, you want people to see you and everything. But at your point as a band, you guys are able to be a little bit more dramatic or theatrical with it, where you're like, let's tell a story, or like let's further the story.
Yeah. But no, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the song that people have heard right now when we're talking. So Colder Quicker was the first single out, which I found so interesting. I've heard the whole album, so we can talk about the whole record.
Okay.
But let's talk about Colder Quicker because it's the closing song on the record, which is such an unusual single choice. Most people kind of tuck that away. So how'd you guys come up with let's lead there?
I mean, like, I think it was just one of those things where it's kind of strategic in a way, I think, because, I mean, like, I think it will help people get to the end of the record, because it's that familiar song, you know? I don't know, and, like, we also, like, really don't really think of anything in the band as, like, this standard thing, you know? I think to us, like, we didn't get where we were, like, doing things the way that they just are, you know? So that song with the album just felt right at the end, like, with the other songs, you know? Because we, like, sat down and came up with a track listing and everything, and we're like, you know, we didn't really expect it to be at the end until we really sat down and figured it all out, you know? Like, if you would have asked me earlier that day, where would that song be, I'd probably be like, oh, like, you know, 4 or 5, I don't know, you know. But then when you actually sit down and try to tell a story with all the songs, it just felt right at the end. It felt like a good closing song. The intro has kind of got a very sort of like dramatic sort of feel to it, like even just like guitar riff, you know, it kind of captures you a little bit, kind of grabs you, you know. So I felt like that was actually a really good closing song. But yeah, definitely a little, you know, untraditional, but I think it really works well because we wanted to tell a story, you know what I mean, with the track listing.
Well, it's also, and people have already pointed this out, but it also kind of marks, it's a pretty clear growth song for you guys. Like, it doesn't sound like anything you would have heard on your debut full length. And so I was curious if maybe it was also a little bit of that, where it's like, let's show people the new stuff, like the new things.
I mean, that specific song, actually, we co-wrote with Mike Green, who's done, like, All Time Low and Pierce the Veil.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely one of the songs that automatically has a little bit different of a different feel to it, because I mean, it was the first time we ever. I think that was the first song we wrote with him too. That it was the first time we ever co-wrote with anyone or anything, you know. So that was actually really cool. That was a cool experience because we've never had an outside opinion like during the kind of writing process of it, you know. And I think that like that specific song, it in general is just overall different, but I think Mike added a lot of kind of variety to it than what you would hear in a Real Friend song like 2 years ago, you know.
Is that the only co-written song on the record?
We did 3 songs were co-written with Mike Green on the record. So
what are the other two?
The other 2 are Empty Picture Frames, which is the second song, and then the song Mess, which is the 6th song. So yeah, but it was really cool. I mean, we were kind of weird about it at first because like the opportunity came up and we were like, I don't know, you know, that's kind of weird. But then like when we got in and did it, it's kind of like you make it what you want it to be, you know. It's like it was like really like Mike said it best the first day because we were like, how does this work? And he's like, I'm just another member of the band, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit here and write a song for you. And we're like, well, we don't want that, you know what I mean? We wrote those 3 songs, but Mike was there to give little suggestions or how about try this and things that we wouldn't have probably thought of, you know, which I think is really cool. And as we grow as songwriters and everything, I think outside opinion in music is actually really important because it not only does it change the song currently when you're writing it, but it also expands you as a songwriter and an artist, you know, to approach things a little differently, you know.
Well, I've always felt like part of the Real Friends appeal is that it feels very personal and it kind of feels like you guys are telling your own narrative. So I can understand how the idea of maybe bringing in an outsider, so to say, there's like that worry that it's going to maybe change the narrative or they won't get what you are trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, like we've always really held things, you know, the music really close to us, and we still do. But I think that you know, going into the whole co-write thing, for example, too, it was. I mean, we were kind of told that it was kind of no strings attached. So, like, go out there we went out to LA for a week. This was before we recorded the album, and it was like, all right, see what you can do with Mike Green, you know. And we were told if we write songs with them and we don't like them, then we don't have to use them, you know. Like it was kind of no strings attached sort of thing, you know. So we were like, well, we got nothing to lose, you know. And it was actually just a really great eye-opening experience for us, and it was really cool. And Mike Green is a great guy, very talented. You would never know that he writes with bands. Like he just seems like kind of a very normal guy. Like when we met him, I'm like, is this the guy or is he like working in his office over here? You know. So
okay.
I think it kind of he's a really cool, laid-back guy. We just really clicked with him. With that aspect of it.
One of the unknown heroes of the genre, so to say.
Oh, definitely. You would never expect it.
Well, do you mind if we kind of tear through some of the record a little bit, since you probably haven't talked about it too much?
Sure, yeah. Let's do it.
Well, you know, I gotta tell you, like, I don't know where I want to start. I think I want to jump ahead a few songs because I think the opening track is really great. But the song that stuck out to me the first time through and every time is I feel like "Keep Lying to Me" might be the best song you've written.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know why, but it just grabs me, man. Go on.
That was actually a specific song that when we wrote it, I kind of thought that it had a feel of sort of the older stuff, like sort of earlier on sort of vibe. Yeah. It just has a very energetic vibe. Mm-hmm. But no, I really like that song, and actually Steve Evans, who we recorded the album with, and he produced it as well. Throughout the process of recording, he kept saying that was his favorite song. And then our merch guy listened to the album, and he said that was his favorite song. So,
All
yeah.
right.
So, I mean, I'm glad that it's earlier in the album. So.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like you guys are kind of known for these like really personal feeling songs, but this song takes that to like this extreme where it's almost uncomfortable because you're like, oh wow, like we are almost too close for comfort because it just feels so personal, yet it still has like that infectious nature, and it does kind of have that feel of the early material, especially in the energy of it. But the lyrics themselves, it feels like you're getting super personal.
Yeah, I think that, you know, as a songwriter, that's kind of something that I always try to kind of touch on is you want to, like, I don't know, I kind of always think that it's important to have a factor where, not always, but sort of have a factor where people are like, oh wow, like he just said that, you know what I mean? Like kind of thing. Because I feel like we all feel different emotions, and a lot of emotions that we feel can be, you know, very personal or very extreme, or, you know, and I think that when someone can relate to something in the music, and it's just very kind of straightforward, I guess, kind of said, like people are like, wow, I connect with that, you know. And I think that's something that I always want our band to be. I want our band to be something that is really connecting to the listener, and I definitely think that song does help with that.
Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, maybe what you feel the themes of the album are? Because when I listen to it, especially with like Stay in One Place and Keep Lying to Me, it seems to talk about these relationships gone awry, but then there are other songs on the record like Mokina that seem to get a lot more like internalizing what you're dealing with or going through. And I'm curious about if it's about this self-acceptance, self-confidence, or if you feel it's something bigger than that. Like, what do you feel this record is about?
I think overall the best way to define the record is, you know, there's obviously different themes, but I think it all, to kind of tie it under one thing, I think it's just a continuation of what we've always been. It's sort of like just, you know, dealing with one, growing up and change, and really realizing that, you know, life isn't really what you pictured it to be, you know. I know, like, a lot of us had dealt with things over the past couple of years of just people in our lives you know, turning out to be a little different than what we had thought, you know, and sometimes a lot of that has to do with even people really close to us. Like I actually got really personal on a couple songs and wrote about my parents. And I think that, you know, when basically, like, when you're younger, you kind of look at your parents or whatever, your kind of like elders, as these like untouchable sort of people that they have the answer, like what they say is right, you know. And as you get older, you know, I'm 27, and it's like get older, and I've kind of realized, I'm like, oh, like, okay, maybe you don't really know all the answers, you know. And you kind of, like, not only with parents, but just a lot of people in life, you know, you do realize that you're kind of in a different place than 10-year-old you thought you'd be, you know, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm rambling.
No, definitely. It's like that. There's that Wonder Years line that Dan wrote about growing up as watching your heroes turn human.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's
like that.
That's I mean, like, yeah, I think we just all experienced that on quite a few levels since the last album, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm 28 myself, so I think I know exactly where you're coming from, because it is weird, because I feel like the dynamic of my relationship with my parents have changed, where it used to be like I looked to them for all the answers and guidance, and now I kind of see them almost as like just these people that I know, and I'm really close to them, but at the end of the day, they're just people.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the truth, you know. And I think when you really think about that aspect of life, I mean, you can dig a lot of inspiration from it, you know. I mean, a lot of the album is about that sort of overall theme.
And how has that kind of like shown itself to you guys over the last years? Because you guys have had this kind of crazy rise and this ride through the industry in the last couple of years, where you went from being this buzz band, you got signed, you had this album come out, and things have happened really fast in a short amount of time for you guys. And I'm wondering, how has that kind of changed those personal relationships?
I mean, we're all the same people. I feel like most of my relationships are the same. But it does things like certain parts of it change though, in the fact that we're gone a lot, and you get home and you're kind of like, oh, like this person, like this changed or this changed, and it's like you don't really get to see it happen. It happened when you were gone, kind of thing, you know. And that's definitely a sort of change that we've all been dealing with over the past like 4 years. But that's life, you know. That's what comes with this career, you know, is having things happen at home while you're gone, you know. Like it never ends, you know. I think when I first started touring, I don't know, I thought that when I left there was like this pause button and everyone is just like standing still, you know.
Yeah.
and then you get home and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, things really do keep going. But that's part of it, and you know, that's something that we accept for being able to do this as a living, you know.
It is kind of crazy. I was talking to Cam from Sorority Noise yesterday, and we talked about the exact same thing about how it's crazy, especially as you start to get a little bit older, because like your older family starts to die, or you have friends that die or pass away, and like you can't just stop the machine of the music industry to like go home or to grieve even. No. Sometimes you got to keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you definitely have to keep going. Like I dealt with 2014 Warped Tour, I dealt with like my grandmother passed away when I was on the tour, and I left like 3 days before it ended, and we had a friend fill in for me. But it's like, you know, like she was really sick and it got really bad, and like, you know, a week before she passed away, it's like I just wanted to go home, you know. But I'm like, well, I can't just leave, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just one of those things where it's like it kind of comes, you know, that's what comes with this, you know. But yeah, it never ends.
It never, yeah, but at the same time, it's one of those things that like no one told you that when you guys were first starting out, that like one day you might have to decide whether or not you're going to stay on the road or drop everything and try to make your way home. Like that's one of those things that you kind of have to deal with as it comes up.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I mean it doesn't get easier either.
No.
You know, I mean, like there's, you know, I think we all go, you know, and it's normal. We all go through times on tour. You know, if you're gone for 6 weeks, there might be a couple days where I'm like, man, I miss being home right now, because we're all from like the suburbs of Chicago, so we're all like, at least for me, when I go home, I get in a very routine sort of lifestyle. Like wake up at the same time, like go to Starbucks every morning, like do like very set things. I do, you know, I go to my grandparents' house like every Friday, go to my dad's house every Sunday, and sometimes you kind of miss that, you know what I mean? And like and it's like, it's kind of weird, like still, even after like almost 4 years of touring, it's like sometimes it still kind of takes a mental toll on you, you know, because it's like you get thrown into this scenario where you're in a new city every day, and then all of a sudden you get spit back home, and it's very routine. And then it never ends though. It's not like, okay, well, I'm off for the next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, I'm off for like a couple months at most, you know?
Yeah.
But that, I don't want that to come off as complaining at all. It's not. It just is saying that, you know, it is a very different lifestyle than a 9 to 5 sort of lifestyle.
No, it is, and I don't think you come across that way. I think I mean, it's just the truth of the matter, especially as you get older in the music business. Like you start, your perspective of like what it is and how it works and how it fits into the rest of, you know, the world, it changes because you see all those people around you, how their lives evolve, and yours doesn't really do it quite the same way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely it's definitely different. I mean, like, you know, we're like, you and I are at the age where a lot of people are, you know, getting married and things like that. And it's like, you know, like I flew home from a tour for like 2 days because one of my really good friends got married and I was in the wedding. And I just remember, like, I was happy for him and it's great, but it's like I just felt so weird. I was like after it, I was like, I remember like sitting in my apartment just thinking about it and being like, man, I remember like going to the mall and like hanging out with this guy that's one of my best friends. It's like, I remember going there and like, you know, being stupid and doing stupid shit. And it's like, now you just got married. Yeah. Like, and then I look at like me and I'm like, you know, and it's like, do I like is that where I could be in my life right now? I'm like,
Exactly.
no. Like, I just don't see it, you know. And I think that's what comes with this. You know, I know a lot of great people that are in bands. I know a lot of great people that are in the music industry and all that. And it's just everyone's is wired a little differently. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Not. Yeah, and I honestly love it. Like I love being surrounded by people like that aren't like, you know, like my, you know, like my sister, for example. She's almost 30, and I love her to death. She's great, but she, you know, is engaged, gonna get married, has a job, wants to have kids, like very normal, you know, and that's cool for some people. But I love being surrounded by people with that kind of alternative sort of lifestyle, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing, and it's kind of cool to see that, because like I've always been one of those people where I'm like, I don't quite fit in that sort of normal life, you know. Like even before I was in this whole thing, it just never really made sense for me.
No, I get that. And when I've always found, like, now that I feel like I found a place where I kind of fit in, I love when I meet like a young musician or a young industry professional, and you see it in them where you're like, oh, you're one of us, and you don't might not even realize that you found where you belong yet, but you're like, it's gonna get easier. It's gonna get a little harder, but it's gonna get easier because you're in the club now.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we you know, sometimes we talk about, you know, what are we gonna do after this? You know,
exactly.
Like, it's this band, you know, and like to me, it's like I know where I'll always be. You know, it's like I'm always going to be in this world, because I'm kind of more of the business kind of guy in the band, and it's like I want to do a career. I want to do a career with, you know, I don't know what, maybe management or whatever it might be. But it's like, to me, it's like I feel very comfortable in this world, also knowing that it's like I'm not going to go back to the normal world. You know, it's like I know that I'm going to be here. And you just feel, you know, it's kind of like when you're in high school and you find your group, you know. It's like, it's definitely like I know my group, and it's like a lifelong thing now. I'm fit for life, you know, and it's a comforting thing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those weird like tribal remnants where you're like, oh, I found my circle, and now this is like I can stay here.
Oh no, totally. And a lot of the people that that are, you know, that are listening or fans or whatever, probably don't even realize how small it is. Like it's tiny. Like everyone knows each other. Like, you know, because I'll be, you know, like you know, like a lot of industry people are at shows in like LA, for example. It's like we'll be at an LA show, and it'll be like, okay, like this manager I know is talking to this band member I know, but I didn't know they knew each other, but I'm not shocked. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. You know, and it's like, in normal life, it's like if your friend knows your other friend, you're like, oh, you guys know each other? Like, where do you know what I mean? And it's like, for this, it's just, oh, yeah, okay. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
It is crazy how small it is, and I think that's part of what makes it so exciting when you find new people, because you're like, oh, we grew a little bit. Like, here's 5 more guys, or 5 guys and gals that can now be part of this club.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Now, you mentioned being from the suburbs of Chicago. Is Mokina where you're from? Is that how you say that song title? Because I know it's a suburb of Chicago.
Mokina is near where we're from. We're from a town called Tinley Park.
Okay.
And that a lot of people know of Tinley Park in our area because that's where the amphitheater is, and that's actually where they have Warped Tour.
Okay.
So a lot of people are familiar with it, but Mokina is like right near us, and yeah, good job at saying that town name right, because a lot of the people that have mentioned that song say like Mokina or like say it wrong.
Yeah, Mokina.
But yeah, I've heard that too, but Mokina is actually correct. So yeah, but yeah, we're from Tinley Park. It's like about a half hour outside of like Chicago, like proper.
Now, when it comes to writing songs for you at this point, you write so personally, and it seems to come from such a deep personal place. Is there a part of you that feels like you have this responsibility to the audience to share a certain perspective or a certain like way of life through your songs at this point? Do you feel like you have this established repertoire that fans expect you to do X with your songwriting?
I don't know. I mean, like, I guess I've never really thought of like the expectation, you know? I think when I was in high school, for example, I would write I would try to sound really smart in my writing. Like I would try to like have these rhymes and
Yeah.
like different words and all this stuff. And then like when we started this band, I mean, I started the band when I was 22. I think I just turned 22. Maybe I was even 21 still. But anyway, now I'm 27, and it's like when we started writing and stuff, I kind of like committed to myself. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna like screw the bullshit, like trying to sound smart, trying to write some like hooky part. I'm like, I remember just kind of having this realization of just, I'm just going to write like from my heart, like whether it sounds smart, maybe it will sound smart sometimes, maybe it won't, you know? And it's like, kind of always had that sort of way, and it kind of just worked with us, and I just kind of stuck with it. And I guess I haven't really, I'm not really sticking with it because I'm like, oh, like that people, like that's our thing, like people like that. It's just when honestly, like there's so many times that I wrote songs for this album where I would read it even before it was to a song, and I'd feel like it was like therapeutic, you know what I mean? And I think like really just saying something in an honest fashion, I think for me as an artist really kind of helps me, kind of is uplifting, makes me get that emotion out by just saying what it is instead of trying to use some big words, you know?
Now, when it comes to a song like Scared to Be Alone, where instead of being like I and me, a lot of the lyrics are you need or you deserve or you this, you that. Does that change where that song comes from? Because it does feel like you're writing for someone as opposed to maybe writing for yourself.
Well, yeah, that song's a really personal song for me. And it's like, it kind of, I guess that song, for example, is something that really sort of, like it relates to a lot of people in my life actually, but I actually wrote the song about my mom, and like to I mean I guess that it is kind of one of those things that is looking like me looking at someone instead of always coming from me, and it
Yeah.
was sort of a refreshing point of view, you know, because I mean like a lot of our songs are kind of the like I sort of like
First
thing,
person,
you know.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but I think for that one, it was, I mean, that was a really therapeutic song for me to write. And it was just, kind of a new perspective for us. And I think that a lot of people can also relate to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
a lot of people in life, I mean, you know, they're looking from the outside, you know, onto their loved ones or friends or whatever it may be.
No, definitely. I was re-listening to the album this morning and we were getting ready for this, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh wow, when you get to that track, it's like the first time that you really are that the song feels like you're talking to someone or you're trying to lift someone else up as opposed to kind of seeing the world through your eyes. And I guess you still are because you are you're addressing this other person, but it is kind of a change that you feel, and you're like, oh okay, so like we're changing perspective a little bit here, or at least focus.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that song, the way the style of the song also is a little different for us, and I think that it kind of like fits well with the lyrics, you know, because having you say that is that different point of view kind of adds variety. I mean, if you listen to the song, it doesn't really sound like any other song we've done before. You know, I think the chorus is very kind of Jimmy Eat World-ish sort of vibe. But then some of it even has a little bit like darker of a vibe, which I think it was really cool and fun to experiment with.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the story behind Eastwick? Because I feel like this is going to be one of those fan favorite songs, and I keep coming back to it, but I'm not 100%. Can you tell me the story behind it?
Well, that one was actually one that our singer Dan wrote.
Oh, nice. Fair
So
enough.
yeah,
I was bound to fall into that eventually.
yeah. No, well, I mean that brings us into a good subject of him writing some lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. So
Which
how'd that come about for this?
well, it was really like shortly after the first album came out. It was just kind of a conversation we had, you know, and he just said, you know, I've been writing and I'd really like to use some lyrics. And it was like, I was like, dude, that's great. Like, I'd love for you to do some, songwriting, you know, for the album and be able to kind of like get your emotions out, you know? Cause I think to me, it's just refreshing. You know, it's refreshing for me to hear real friend songs from his point of view. You know, and because I mean, I don't know. It was funny when we had the conversation because I didn't know if he was like, he kind of approaches like, is that okay? And I'm like, dude, like this is our band. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I never ever looked at the songwriting as like, this is my thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was never like that. I think naturally it kind of came to me because a lot of the past bands that I was in, I wrote the lyrics even though I wasn't the singer. And I think a lot of that has to do with every band that I was in, I started. And I think that it kind of just becomes natural, you know, like when Dan came in, it was like, Dave, the guitar player, and me, we had like 4 songs written, and I was like, okay, here's the demos of the songs. I have some lyrics I was kind of thinking to use them for them. Here you go. And it was just kind of like, that was kind of the seed, and that was just kind of the way that it was for a long time. So for him to mention wanting to do the lyrics to me was just really refreshing, and it was really nice for me to not have to be like, okay, I have to write like 15 songs. You know, it was really nice to, I think I only wrote like what made the album, I wrote 8 and he wrote 4 of the songs, but there's other tracks as well that didn't make the album. And I think if you split it, I think I wrote like 8 songs for 8, and then he wrote 6. So yeah, so it was almost half and half, really, when you look at all the songs. So it really gave me the opportunity to be able to take my best work, you know, instead of being like, okay, well, we need a song for the album. Not really into this one as much. Just, okay, let's use it. Like all the lyrics I used, I was really stoked on. So that was really cool.
Well, it has to be kind of fun for you to be able to come in and they like Dan be like, I have a new idea to share that you haven't heard before, as opposed to you kind of building it all. Like, here's all the lyrics, and then you know them all. But Dan walks in and he's like, I have something to contribute. I have this idea you haven't heard yet, or like something to bring that you haven't thought of.
Oh yeah, no, that aspect was totally refreshing for me, and like, you know, and I thought it was cool too that his writing style is a little different than mine, but still similar. So yeah. I think the album really vibes well together, and it really meshes well. And I think a lot of that, his style of writing is sort of similar to mine because it's like he's been looking at my lyrics for the past 5 years, you know what I mean, in songs. So I think that's going to come natural.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I didn't even realize that it wasn't your writing. We don't get album credits that's like, here's who wrote all these songs, so I just kind of have to go with what's always been the way. So I think it does speak to the quality of the writing, that it all feels like it's coming from the same place still.
Yeah, which I mean, like, I think, and I think that's a really cool part of it, you know, is that, like, you know, say someone would listen to it and they wouldn't even really know, you know, but I think that it does add a nice sort of variety and sort of progression to the album.
Definitely. Well, let me ask you this. You guys just did this VFW tour, I guess. I mean, that's what I'm calling it. We'll call it the $5 tour.
Yeah, okay.
When did that idea come about? Because I love the idea, because I feel like there are all these bands that kind of rise out of that scene, and then there's always that kind of wave of sadness when it's like, oh, they're too big to do this anymore. But you guys kind of changed that by being like, no, we're going to go back and do that thing again. So when did you guys kind of start kicking around that idea, and what was it like to actually put it into action?
Well, it was like, this idea had so many versions. Like the original idea that we really wanted to do was we wanted to do God, this is like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. We wanted to do like 2 different just weekends of just like playing venues that we played in 2012. And a lot of them weren't open anymore, but because they were like some restaurant we played, you know, Ohio, and you know, whatever. That was the original idea, and it never worked out because we weren't able to do it because of like radius stuff for like tours, like because we were doing the like the main tour, and they like their agent was like, no, can't do that because the tour. Right? All right, whatever. So like the idea kind of like fizzled out, and then like when we were talking about the new album, we're like, it'd be cool to like kind of tie in like some shows, because at first it was just like, okay, we'll do like some shows and of like small places, like just small venues. And then the more we talked about it, kind of transformed into like, hey, let's play like skate shops and like untraditional places, VFW halls, you know what I mean? And so yeah, the idea after just talking about it sort of turned into that. And then we're like, oh, let's make it $5. Like, why not? So that, and we kind of tied in with the album by everyone that came in the door actually got our new album for free, like a download card.
Nice.
Of the album. That we actually didn't promote that aspect of it at all. So everyone that walked in the door got a little download card and it said like New Real Friends album, just like white with black text. Didn't say anything fancy, and said,
right,
on release day, you type in this code and you get the album for free. So that was kind of like the promotional aspect of it, was that everyone that came to the shows is getting our album and they'll have it, on release day, which is really cool. And like, it was really, the big picture of it really was a thank you to the fans. We're like, here's an affordable show. Here's us in a cool setting. And here's our album. And every night we said, thank you guys. Like, without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. You know what I mean? It's like, without you guys, this would maybe be where we would play, like normally, like maybe not even fill it up, this little 200 tap place, but we're fortunate enough to be able to play like real venues and have people care about our band. And that's not because of us, it's because of the fans. Like, we're very, very grateful to the fans, to be able to let us do this as a living,
Yeah, you guys have been able to play a whole venues of a ton of different sizes, but is there anything like those tiny DIY shows? Is there any energy comparable to that in the bigger venues?
No, not at all. Like you get 200 people at House of Blues in Chicago, it's going to be the most awkward show. It's going to be weird.
Yeah.
But we played with 200 people in like a VFW hall, and it's like the craziest shit ever. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. It was really refreshing for us to play those small places, and it was just really cool. Like that, I don't know. Like, we kind of kept saying like, oh, it's, or a lot of people kept saying like, oh, you're going back to your roots and all this stuff. And we were kind of like, you know what? This is still who we are. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel out of place here, or like, oh, I'm going back. It's like, to us, I'm like, this is still who we are as a band. It's like, we're not going to let like the size of our band define us. It's like, this is still like, I felt the most at home at those shows.
Well, I feel like the ultimate goal is to find a way to like keep that energy going regardless of how big you get, and like it just isn't like, there's something very unique about that setting, like that kind of setting for a show that doesn't translate in a bigger venue, and it's hard to want to leave that ever.
Oh yeah, I mean, like that, we had a really big, not a really big problem, but like it was sort of a transitional period where we were doing bigger rooms, and it was like we were just like stand on stage and wouldn't do anything because we were like, we're not used to like moving around. Like, we're used to like being all nudged up to our amps because kids are like jumping and crowd surfing and like piling up on each other. So like that was so that was something that took us a while to get used to, was actually being able to put on a performance, So for these shows that we did, the $5 shows, like, it was really cool and refreshing to go back to that and be able to just like really vibe off the energy of the crowd. And it's almost more of a show for us than them, to see some of these kids doing this crazy stuff, just everyone just like, also everyone being so respectful too. Like, there wasn't any like fights or anything like that. Everyone just kind of picked each other up, and people doing circle pits and stuff. It was a blast. It was so much fun.
I can imagine. Let me ask you this, man. I want to wrap it up because I know you've probably got other things to do with your day than talk to me for an hour. But I am curious because you guys have done a lot with your band so far, and you've accomplished a lot. You've managed to stay level-headed so far. When going into this new album release, do you guys have you guys like discussed goals or like what you hope comes out of putting this album out, or is it more a matter of just, we made the best album we could, we hope people like it?
It's funny. Someone in another interview mentioned that to me, and I was with Dave, our guitar player, when I was doing the interview, And after the interview, I said to him, I'm like, you know what's funny is we've never sat down as a band and said, like, what are we trying to do here? You know, like, I don't know. It's just never been that way. Like, because like, it was I was kind of caught off guard actually, because the guy that was interviewing me was kind of talking like the album was going to be this like really big thing. Like, and I was just kind of like, I don't know. I never really thought of that. Like, I don't know. He's like, well, what if this is the record that really bridges you into being a really big band? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what to say, you know? It's like, because we just write songs that we want to write, you know, and it's very organic and it's very honest, and it never comes from a place of like, all right, this is where we need to be. You know, it's like, to us, like, we've always said it in interviews before, and I'll say it again, like, we never thought the band would even be this. Like, we never thought the band would be what it was 3 years ago, you know? So like, to me, anything that happens, like, if we even just maintain where we are, I'm happy. You know, it's like, if this is it, if this is the peak, then hey, it's great, you know. But of course we want growth, you know. It's not that we don't want it. It's just, I think that we've accomplished so much as a band that we don't really sit and try to say, like, how do we get bigger and bigger and bigger or whatever, you know. It's like, we just want to keep being the band that we are, you know.
Well, I feel like between us and my experience, that's kind of the secret to actually getting to that next level, is being like, no, we just want to be the best version of ourselves we can be, and hopefully people like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we've always wanted to be, and what we've always sort of strived to be as well. You know, we're just like, hey, like, you know, because there's like things that come up, like opportunities, or even just like little things where we're like, oh no, that doesn't really fit us, you know, like, no, we're not going to do that because that's not really our thing, you know, or whatever it might be. And I think like, that's really important, to kind of stay true to yourselves and recognize who you are, not to be some, you know, we never want to be a band without like a personality, you know, where we're this band one week and then the next week we're this band, you know. It's like, I think we know who we are, and it's just us, you know, and that's what we always want to, who we always want to be.
Great answer, man. Well, what are the easiest places for people to keep up with you guys?
Probably Twitter and Instagram. Facebook is kind of becoming sort of stupid now. So,
Truth.
But yeah, just Real Friends Band.
Real Friends Band.
Real Friends Band. RealFriendsBand.com has it all as well.
I will say that you have to add the band, because Kanye's Real Friends song really screwed up Google.
Oh yeah. No, I'm sure. Yeah, we had when that song came out, there was like so many people like mentioning to us like, "Oh, Kanye wrote a song about you." I'm like, what?
No, I was trying to grab a few things, trying to double check some things while writing my questions, and every time I would try to Google something about Real Friends, I'd be like, I don't care about the Kanye song. Like, I got it, but clearly I'm looking for this other thing, and it was funny to me. I was like, damn, two Chicago artists warring with each other over the term Real Friends.
Yeah, he actually like went to a high school not too far from where we live, which is funny.
Wow.
So.
All right, man. So what else? So the album comes out May 27th. This will be out right before that happens. Do you guys have anything else that's announced yet that'll be announced by then? You guys probably have something going on this summer, right?
Warped Tour.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, we'll be doing Warped Tour all sweaty summer long. So.
Well, when you guys come through Minneapolis, we can get together. Well, I think it's some other weird place in Minnesota, but you know what I'm talking about. It's not. Yeah. It's not here in the cities. It's in the middle of nowhere.
That sounds like Warped Tour.
Yeah. No, I did a summer on Warped Tour, and it's when you get to these middle states, it's always like we are in the middle of nowhere. It's weird how that works out.
Yeah. I mean, like, even in Chicago, they do it in our hometown, and like we're like a half hour outside the city.
I forgot about the Chicago one. It is way out there in the middle of, like, you wouldn't believe you're anywhere near Chicago.
Yeah. So that's just the nature of that festival, I guess. But it's going to be a good time, and we're going to drink a lot of water, and we're going to, we're kind of going to be like advocates of drinking water this year, because I don't really. It kind of annoys me when I see people walking around with like Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
On Warped Tour.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. So this year it's all about drinking water. So.
You, you heard it here first. It's all about water this year. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for taking like an hour out of your day to talk to me. I really enjoy the record.
no.
I'm excited to see how people react.
No problem. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Have a good day, man.
All right, you too.